What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Littleroot Lessons, episode 239. I return to you all as a husband. Look at this. See how pretty it is? Look at this.
He's back.
See? Right
he's
there?
back, and he's married to me. I'm just kidding. I wish.
I don't think Alex or Amanda would appreciate that.
No, they wouldn't. They'd be upset.
Or maybe they're both just so sick of us that they're like, yeah, fine, go.
Yeah, go off. Go on your merry way. Have your little podcast fun.
It's been 8 days, and she's like, can I return you? No, it's not that bad.
No, I'm sure you guys had an awesome wedding. I know I saw a couple of pictures. Your family looks nice and Italian.
They are.
It was it was awesome to see the other little Angelos out there.
Other little Angelos, yeah. So the picture that I shared, we did get our full photo album, and that's right after the pod. My job is to download about 1,000 photos to my computer and then put them on a thumb drive to share with everyone and upload it to the Google Drive as well. So I get to do all that fun stuff. But yeah, one of the pictures, the classic pose my siblings and I have is just the three of us giving the finger to whoever's holding the camera. And yeah, so we were like, I asked the photographer, hey, can we do this? And they're like, sure. And so when we're doing the portrait pictures, I'm like, Ma, here's your Christmas card. And then all of us were like, and I sent that to the Littleroot lessons like brain trust chat. And my mom was a little disappointed. She expected it. It's still disappointing.
Yeah,
and she said
she also expected better.
Yeah. She did tell me, though, she will be using that as the Christmas card, so I don't have to take any Christmas card photos when I go back down and see my parents for Thanksgiving.
Check has been cashed.
Yes. So while I was away, we had Baltimore regionals, the first regional in North America. And today, this weekend, we had our first European regional and our first Latin American regional, Dortmund and Joinville, which I didn't know was in Brazil until I Googled it on Friday.
Yeah, I didn't even know. I wasn't aware Joinville was happening today. They gotta market the Latin American tournaments a little bit better, in my opinion, because there is some great players in that tournament as well, and I would have loved to have known about it.
Yeah, like Gabriel Agati, who's one of the best players on the planet, he won the event. I would have loved to have been able to see it. I do believe there was some grassroots coverage of it, like people streaming it on Twitch, or at least I think finals was. I wasn't able to watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the big issue is the only Latin American event that they'll ever stream or bring a production crew out to work is LAIC, similar to how the only Australian events that we ever saw streams were when we had them was OCIC. Yeah. So even like for Europe, it wasn't up until last year where European regionals were actually officially streamed. It was usually Victory Road doing all of their own production, which is why you still see like the switches. The stream trainer names are always Victory Road because they're doing all the production work, and it's just they just get TPCI's budget now. Yeah. So let's dive right into. Let me make sure this is the right one. You are. Let's dive right into the day one usage. What's the what like? There were two Pokemon. Well, one Pokemon I expected to be there, and one Pokemon that I kind of thought could make it, but I'm shocked to see. Sneasler in 7th. This Pokemon has really been on the up and up ever since Baltimore. It's been on the rise on a lot of these offensive teams, these balanced teams, as an unbelievable focus sash user that puts out a lot of damage. So it wasn't too much of a shock for me to see it in 7th. Electabuzz in 10th.
Yeah, it's very unique seeing Electabuzz this high. I think, just like speaking on Sneasler for a second, Sneasler is like the story of the weekend here. It was absolutely dominant in this tournament, and seeing it up at 7th, I've been playing around with it a little bit lately. It's really, really solid, and it has a bunch of different teams that it can fit on, both between its Focus Sash set with like the Poison Touch, but also like unburdened seed sets are really cool as well. Um, Looking at Electabuzz, that's just like it's been making waves for quite some time now, and it's I feel like towards the beginning of when they were introduced into the formats with Follow Me and stuff, um, it was like, oh, Magmar might be a little bit better because you get Flame Body, which is great for Urshifu. But in this format, like Electabuzz has just been outrageous. You have, I feel like a lot of them are running Vital Spirit to deal with a Spore from Amoonguss. And then you have Speed Control and Follow Me with both Electro Webs, Follow Me. And then I think a lot of them are running Taunt right now as well.
Yeah.
Um, it's just such a cool Pokemon. And I'm very excited to see it doing so well.
Yeah, it's I think along with Sneasler, one of the stories is this balance team that's been popping up. The main core being around Rillaboom, who's in second place in our usage stats, Primarina in fifth, King Gambit in sixth. You have like Sneasler on a lot of these teams, and then your last two spots, it's usually a dragon, most likely Dragapult. But on some cases, I know the Tangs were talking about how they were running these four here with Salamence as the dragon, plus your choice of a redirector, whether it was Clefable, um, of course, Amoonguss could be the option, but usually it was a Follow Me Mon. But yeah, Clefable, Amoonguss, Electabuzz, and Magmar.
Mm-hmm.
One of these Mons as that redirection glue piece that can also support your Pokemon with other options such as Speed Control, Fast Taunt. In Magmar's case, providing Fire, Water, Grass core to go along with your Balance Backbone. Um, it was a lot of great things. Another dragon that had an unbelievable week was Garchomp.
Yeah.
Garchomp was already a star player in Baltimore, and weirdly enough, it actually I think had an even better week. Since it did spoilers, it did win the event. Actually, it won both events. Both regional champions from this weekend used Garchomp. Being a ground type is unbelievable in this format when you're just looking at the top Pokemon. Number one Incineroar, welcome back King. Number three Goldengo, number five King Gambit, number seven, 8, 10 in usage. All of these Pokemon hate ground types and hate being hit by offensive ground moves. Being able to slap a Life Orb onto this Mon and be like, okay, I have this immediate super super fast ground type damage, whether it's Earthquake spam or it's even Stomping Tantrum. Like Garchomp is able to do so much damage into a lot of the massive threats in this format. Can force a lot of terras, can force a lot of unwanted terras in that sense. Be happy like maybe you want to terra your Primarina in a matchup, except the Garchomp's forcing you to terra your Goldango or go Terra Dark um, on your Gambit, and so you get rid of that weakness, and you can then play around that way. It's really nice.
Yeah, for sure. And we saw on the finals team, which we'll get into shortly, like having that that like earthquake spam next to a levitator in Hydreigon is really really great. There's a lot of flying types in the format, like pelipper. Specifically, Flamigo is another one that's been popping up quite a bit. Really, really strong option with really good like offensive and defensive typing for the format.
Yeah. Even like I think we saw it was a team very similar to the team that Wolf and Justin Karras ran in Baltimore, with Corviknight and Kilowattrel as the flying types next to Garchomp to have those as your options. So yeah, people have been getting pretty creative to allow Garchomp to do its thing, which is very impressive because of Rillaboom's usage on about a third of the teams in the format. Grassy Surge, for those of you who don't know, will mitigate the damage. I believe it cuts it in half. Might be cut. Yeah, it's a 50% reduction,
I
correct?
think
At
so.
sound
Yeah.
on that. Yeah, 50% reduction to moves like Bulldoze and Earthquake. So usually a lot of Rillaboom should mean that Garchomp should struggle. The fact that it's not only top 12 in usage, but winning, but also winning and succeeding in these events where there's supposed to be a lot of Rillaboom is pretty impressive. If you want, I will just give me a moment.
We'll look at day 2.
Yeah, we're going to pull up day 2. I'm just trying to remember how to do this. It's been a while. I'm a little rusty.
There we are, day 2. We see like going into day 2, Incineroar takes a big turn for the worse in terms of usage, and King Gambit, Sneasler, Primarina, and Rillaboom, that core that we've been talking about for a little bit now, is all up in that top 4. Incredibly good synergy with each other. That team specifically had a really, really big day. Whether you were pairing it with Magmar, which was really dominant in top cut, taking a lot of positions up there, or the Electabuzz, which we also see, placing up in the top 4, third place.
Yeah. Using the Lab Mouse top teams tool, the third and fourth best teams right now. So the way that this works, this is over the past 2 weeks. So this goes from like Baltimore. It's counting Baltimore up until right now. The Gambit Prim Sneasler, Rilla, plus Dragon plus Redirector teams are the third and fourth most used top teams. The only teams beating them out are the Polichua team, the team that he used to come in second, which had some great showing early this week, and the team the P2 Ursaluna, Amoonguss, Incin, Goldango, and Flamigo team. So like right now we're seeing, at least in this top 12 specifically with these, like this is where balance is really leaning towards, and there's a lot of great offensive pieces. You have slow modes, Gambit and Prim can play slow. You have a fast mode with the Sneasler, and then again usually the Dragapult is what we're seeing the most of. The team like this right here, like this top 12 is telling the story. I think another interesting story to tell is that we see both Basculegion and Archaludon in the top 12, but no Pelipper.
Yeah, I think we've seen a little bit of like a choice scarf with the Basculegion. Kind of be a Gloomon on some of these other teams, where they don't have that dedicated rain mode to it. It is a little interesting to not see Pelipper up here. I suppose that Politoed was something that was seen a little bit this weekend. I know it was on stream for a game. Other Pokemon that are taking that water slot is Primarina and Gastrodon, and while Archaludon does prefer rain, it doesn't necessarily need it.
No.
So I suppose that there's probably some teams out here that are running like Power Herb, Meteor Beam without the rain. I see one that is running Sableye as a rain setter, Politoed. So, there's just some other Pokemon kind of cutting into Pelipper's share of the usage stats. I'm pretty sure it would probably be pretty close at like 13th or 14th place.
Yeah.
I check that on Lab Mouse.
We can, which we can go to right now.
Top cut was 64-ish?
It was 101.
101, wow. 101 in day 2, that's very high.
It is very high. I mean, every 6'2". But yeah, looking at the top
101. Pelipper at 14th, so 2 underneath the top 12, 2 slots behind the Basculegion, 5 usages behind the Archaludon. So that's where you probably see the Sableye or the Politoed kind of cutting into that pie.
Yeah, like that's where you're also seeing, especially, I mean, the Basculegion can run a ton of items with or without the Pelipper. The Arch, however, like this is where you probably see, this is where we do know that one of the leftover Archaludons was actually next to Pelipper. But yeah, people are still running Assault Vest the um, without the Electro Shot. We're just saying, I'll just use Electro Shot as a setup move where I'll charge one turn and then go in. The amount of damage is still too good. And then, of course, the Power Herb as well. We also have one Sturdy, and if I had to guess, the Power Herb was also the Sturdy Arch. And Sturdy does allow you to play a much faster Archaludon, even invest more into its speed and power because you don't have to worry about the bulk. You have that built-in focus sash. It's just a different way to play them on, and it does show that even though this is a Pokemon that has really defined a lot of the Regulation H metagame, there's still new ways that people are exploring how to use it. While the rain mode's probably the most optimal, it doesn't mean it's the only way.
Yeah, for sure. A Pokemon that I think I'm pretty interested myself not to see as high is the maushold. We did see it win Baltimore, so I think there's a lot of hate towards maushold itself, especially like the population bomb set. Um, it was so dominant in Baltimore and had like all the memes made about it. I think that a lot of teams are like, okay, we're gonna put that ghost type, we're gonna put that steel type, we're gonna, stick Pokemon that Maushold has a really hard time dealing with on the team, deal with it, and move on to its partner. That way, it can't be troublesome anymore. But I do think Maushold has a really cool spot in this meta right now. Population bomb needs to be accounted for. It's very hard to deal with. Um, so, seeing it just outside the top 12 isn't extremely surprising. I did think it was going to have a good weekend, though.
Actually, in day two, Mousehole players had a losing record in day two, which is kind of crazy. Same with Rain players. Pelipper players went 36-45 in their matches, which it's going into the format. Mousehold, like Mouseape and Rain, were the two archetypes that everyone's like, oh yeah, this is it. These are mons that are going to be doing super well, and we saw that they actually really struggled. Now, Pokemon that didn't struggle, again, we saw great scores from King Gambit, Sneasler, Rillaboom. Another Mon that had a great win loss a little down here was Magmar 35-25. Magmar had, well, Electabuzz was a story in day one. I think that Magmar, especially you had 10 Magmars in day two, which we can move on to the teams. So 10 Magmars in day two, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4. Where are you? Yeah, so out of the 10 Magmars in day two, that came to day two, 4 of them made Top Cut. I believe it was, top 20. Top Cut was top 23. So that also shows, like, this was a Pokemon that if you brought Magmar, there's a good chance you had a really good day.
Yeah, there's actually 5.
Wait, I can't count. There's 5. Yeah, so
Yeah.
50% day 2 to Top Cut conversion rate is absolutely wild, and it's all pretty much on the same exact team. The only difference, it's this balancing that we've been talking about. The only difference is Joan Garcia, who going into Top Cut was the 1 seed, choosing Solo Dozo as the water type, and then Nico Davide Cognetta. There we go. Using the Salamence. Again, this is something that Justin Tang talked about, how his building group was testing the Salamence variant instead of the Dragapult variant as a mode of different damage, giving the team Intimidate as well. So it gives, you keep the Dragon typing, you lose a bit of speed, but you can offer special damage and Intimidate, which is a really nice thing to add to this team. But yeah, let's first talk about the winners team, who didn't use these balance mons that we've been talking about. I'm going to butcher this. Is it David Miraglia? There we go.
This is an Italian, by the way.
I know. Okay, so before this, I was saying how I want to also take my my football team's Italian head coach on a fishing trip tomorrow. So me and Italians right now, I love them, but also,
You're at war.
oh, it's right now.
The gloves are off.
It's business. It's business. I like this team. I think this is a super cool team. Really, really leaning into the. It's technically a 2-2-2. It's 2 dragons, 2 fairies, and 2 ghosts. So
That's awesome. I actually only just noticed that.
yeah, and you have this double dragon, double fairy, along with the Goldango, where you have a bunch of ways to mix and match the fantasy core, which we always talk about fire, water, grass, fire, water, grass, fire, water, grass. The steel fairy dragon core is always an unbelievable core to have. I feel like in this metagame, it's really, really powerful because of the amount of super powerful steel types and super powerful dragon types in the format. And then fairy's a little lacking, but Clefable has really set itself apart as one of the premier Pokemon in the format in terms of supporters, and Wims is always a good Pokemon whenever it's available.
Yeah, for sure. This team is awesome. It's kind of interesting because I feel like on the Whimsicott, you'd probably expect to see maybe beat up to try to get that Annihilate going. But like having the safety goggles bulk up really just lets you probably invest very, very heavily into your defensive stats. Um, you know, let you just sit on the field and soak up hits with Drain Punch and, get your Rage Fist stacks that way. Choice Specs Hydreigon is so cool. Like this kind of in a way like feels like a 2-2-2 dozo type of situation too, where it's like you can lead, you know, any of these two Pokemon together kind of and really wreak havoc. Like Hydreigon plus Clefable could be extremely difficult. Hydreigon plus Goldengo and just start doing tons and tons of damage to then bring in your Garchomp and Whimsicott or something in the back. This team is really, really interesting and screams just, I'm going to out damage you, I'm going to out survive you. It's like the best of both worlds between balance and hyper offense.
Yeah, what you were saying with the Annihilate is very true. We saw it in the in a lot of the stream matches that we saw with this team, where it got to a point where the Ape got a bulk up or two. Maybe they forced the Electabuzz into having to use like Electro Web, and you get that +2 Defiant, so like you're +3/+1, and it's just sitting there, and you can't do anything because the second you attack it a couple times, you're going to already give the +2/+3 Annihilate Rage Fist boosts. But if you don't, the Rage Fist still does a lot of damage. The Drain Punch does even more, and it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. I think it was, I don't know if it was Tim who tweeted it or like if he retweeted from the Lab Mouse, but I saw something where it's like for Annihilate and Maushold to finally win regionals, they had to get a divorce.
It's
which,
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, rest in peace, the Mouse Ape. For now, I still think Mouse Ape is good.
I think what you were saying with the beat up on, like having no beat up on Wims, one of the things with these Mouse Ape teams with Spam, Dozo, even like the earlier versions of Rain teams, more so like the Mouse Ape, Spam, Dozo, your quote unquote gimmick teams, they are very linear, and good players with good teams make good plans, and like they know all your plays because this is how the team is, like how these teams are supposed to play. By not having the beat up there, you're kind of forcing yourself to just be flexible and not be linear.
Yeah.
It is super easy to just say, "Oh, I'm going to go beat up into my ape," but they're going to read that, they're going to play that, and so maybe you try to outread them, and you're never going to click that button. And at that point, if you're not doing it, then just don't do it. Don't just throw Sunny Day on there to make your rain matchup significantly better by having priority weather. So even on the switch in, you're always able to turn the weather off. And also just like Terrafire, Heat Specs, Heat Wave, in the sun probably does a crap ton of damage.
Yeah, it certainly does. And you can also run that Hydreigon with that Terrifier Heat Wave next to your Garchomp clicking Earthquake over and over and over again, and really just spread damage them with this team.
It's not over and over and over. You click it twice because
Uh,
I don't think many things in the format are able to live a Life Orb boosted Earthquake followed by a Terrifier Specs Heat Wave.
yeah, I don't think so either.
Especially in the sun. So maybe you press it 3 times because like you miss a Heat Wave or they get a Protect or something. But like yeah, like that's what you're saying where you have all of these options here in terms of being able to do balancy things, uh, get good switch-ins, get safe switch-ins, but then you also have the I'm going to lead Garchomp Hydreigon, and wow, your team has nothing into it. That sucks for you. We're going to finish this best of 3 in 7 minutes. It's like, and that's like one of the nice things with this team is it has the instant offense. Which there is also a lot of good offense on second place Maddie Morgan's team. Maddie going and taking another common core we've seen, the Porygon 2, Amoonguss, Incineroar, Goldango core, or at least mostly the P2, Goldango, Incin. We've seen these 3 a lot. The last 2 spots, usually, we've seen a fighting type, mostly Flamigo. Maddie went with Sneasler. And in this ground type slot where Maddie has a Garchomp, we're actually used to seeing Ursaluna, Hisuian. I like the Garchomp more. I think when you're running the team, Hisuian Ursaluna can do a ton of damage. But you have to run, again, it's a linear Pokemon. You have to run the Flame Orb. You have to wait a turn to get the Guts in. If in the grand scheme of things, you gotta get it in Trick Room. And you're also on a clock because you're doing chip damage because of the burn every single turn. Like if you can't bring the P2 or you can't get the Trick Room up, you're kind of screwed there. Garchomp just adds another fast mode, adds instant damage. You can run the Clear Amulet to be completely immune to Intimidate, which we saw a lot. Incineroar had a really good weekend. I personally I like this version more than the version that we've seen in the past.
I like this one as well. I think that having a couple of very fast offensive options is really really great. When you're running this Porygon 2 Amoonguss Incineroar core, you definitely have the ability to become a little bit passive. Those Pokemon don't do a ton of damage. Porygon can with like a download boost. But you have like this Life Orb Nasty Plot Golden Go on this team,
Terra Steel to boot.
Yeah, which allows you to play not only very offensively in that slot, but you can also even settle down next to a Rage Powder Amoonguss and get a Nasty Plot up. Play it under Trick Room with Porygon 2. Like, I feel like your Trick Room answers are there. A lot of these teams will struggle with how do I deal with like these fast offensive, big high powered Pokemon, and that's where you put that Garchomp. That's where you put that Sneasler. You have this fast, ready to go Pokemon. You can do Earthquake spam next to Terraflying Sneasler as well. Between Dire Claw, coaching boosts, you got a lot of positive benefits with that pairing. I think it synergizes really really well into this team.
Yeah. In general, this reminds me a lot of the Iwafushi teams from Regulation F, where these 4 slots were pretty much the same. The Terra type and the Porygon was different. But then they had Lando Eye as your super fast ground type. That's the Garchomp role. And then you had Roaring Moon. Now you have Sneasler, covers different, like less setup, covers different typings. Again, the offense leans a little more physical now instead of more special, but the aspect and idea of the Mons is quite similar. So if you did like using the Scott Iwafushi team back in like the last month of Regulation F, you'll probably enjoy using this team or something similar. Other things I like about the team, Maddie went with the Wolf Glick approach of Pollen Puff's cool, Sludge Bomb is cooler on Amoonguss to be able to do a lot of damage into things. Also, the coaching on Sneasler, one of the aspects is so Terra Blast, if Porygon 2's attack stat is higher, let's say it gets the plus attack due to download, its Terra Ground Terra Blast is actually a physical move, which means that coaching could offensively boost your Porygon 2 if it already like once it terras, and you can get like a +2 +3 Terra Ground Terra Blast off. We've already been talking all episode about how good ground type damage is. That's another way to get really good ground type damage with this team.
Yeah, that also covers like one of Porygon's biggest weaknesses is that it has a really hard time dealing with Golden Go. Terra Ground is a really great way to deal with that. We've seen some like Terra Fighting as well to deal with King Gambit and Tyranitar, but I think Terra Ground is fine because it covers all of those, and if they want a Terra Flying, you have Ice Beam to cover that. Yeah, this team is really cool. Has a lot of really awesome pieces. I definitely starting like seeing a trend of these really nice like balancy cores with a really good go fast button. Mode.
Yeah, yeah. You have your balanced background, a Sneasler, and a Dragon, which is what we see in third place, Nicolo Berardo's team. So I will say this: we've seen this. We're going to see this team a lot. We aren't going to talk about it every time. And when we do see other teams similar to this, we'll just glance over, or we can't talk about the exact six or at least five of the six a ton. Um, we've already went into this. Why is this team good? Well, when you look at it in terms of cores between Dragapult, Prim, and Gambit, again, you have that fantasy core there. Rillaboom's one of the best Pokemon in the format. Fake Out, Grassy Glide, Terrain Control, a lot of damage with Woodhammer, pivoting with U-Turn. Sneasler is the story. You get another Fake Out Mon with this Sneasler. Amazing Stellar Terra user. Dire Claw and Close Combat can do so much damage. Sneasler's close combat actually can pick up an Archaludon, which is something that a previous fighting type that we saw early in the metagame, Paldean Tauros, failed to do. So having that in your back pocket is amazing. Dragapult, we're seeing Terra Dragon instead of Terra Ghost. This is a newer aspect of things. Again, being a dragon type is amazing in this format. And Jay, have you ever clicked Terra Dragon Choice Banded Outrage?
I certainly have.
Yeah, how great does that feel when it hits?
When it hits the right target, it is devastating, entirely devastating. But also, Choice Band Terra Dragon Dragon Darts.
Also really fun to click.
Really, really fun to click. With smart targeting, it allows you to if in the mirror that your opponent wants to lead Prim plus like Electabuzz, you're getting a double up into that Electabuzz, which is really cool. Obviously, Terra Fairy Electabuzz doesn't help you with that, but
you're forcing the Terra on the Electabuzz.
Yeah, which is not super ideal.
Yeah, and instead of it being like any of these other Pokemon, like and in the mirror, you're forcing the Fairy on the Electabuzz. Well, now it's just dropping to a Dire Claw.
Yeah.
How dumb is Dire Claw as a move?
It is so silly. I almost never get the positive benefits out of it. I think I played like 9 best of 3s today using Sneasler, and I clicked Dire Claw a lot. I think I got 1 paralysis, and I was put to sleep probably close to 10 times.
Love your Pokemon more. And like the other thing that I didn't even realize, so Dire Claw in Legends Arceus is a base 60 move. They bumped it to base 80 in Scarlet and Violet. So they actually were like, hey, this was a move that we made specifically for a game that was supposed to be a single player game, which is why pretty much all of the Legends Arceus moves are just bonkers.
Yeah.
It's because they were made with the thought of, oh, these will never be used in competitive play. So they already had this. if Dire Claw was 60 base power, it would still be used. Sneasler would still be used. And then they're like, yeah, well, let's just make it stronger. Why not? What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, I mean, you chunk like so many of the best Pokemon in the format. You really hit the Rillaboom extremely strong with Dire Claw. You do well into Incineroar outside of the Intimidate drops. Um, I think that like this team, it has the fake out Sneasler over the coaching, which is uh, I don't know if that's the case for most of the other ones that we're going to see later down the line. It looks like that might be the case, but I
I think
know.
the yeah, I think one of the other big like choices they would have for Sneasler would be using it as like with a move like Throat Chop and having it be Terra Dark.
Yeah,
That has been another option because one of the things is if you do get this Sneasler into a 1v1 versus a Pokemon like Goldango, against like right now, this Sneasler does nothing into Goldango. If you get into a 1v1 versus Dragapult, you don't have an attack to click into it really. Like you're clicking Dire Claw and praying for sleep pretty much.
which has a good
Could
chance of
happen.
happening. Like
Yeah,
it's a
comparatively,
silly move. It really
yeah.
is.
But like you don't like giving it a move like Throat Chop actually gives you a legitimate button to click into these like Goldango, Dragapult, so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
I still personally think I prefer the fake out in the coaching sets. I think that providing both that really great offense and utility is just an awesome way to use Sneasler. With it with the Sash, Terra Stellar, the Unburdened sets too. I don't know if there's a lot of like Unburdened Sash Sneaslers out there, but it's also something that can absolutely be used. Um, but in terms of, like the rest of the team, uh, that the Terra Dark Black Glasses King Gambit is not something new that we've are only just figuring out is good. So that's no surprise. I really like the Haze Terra Poison Prim quite a bit.
I've never liked Haze with liquid with throat spray. I also just don't
Yeah,
think I just don't think throat spray prim is amazing. We saw it I believe it was in one of the top four sets. Actually, yeah, I think it was the top like Nicolo's top four set against Maddie. It was actually yeah. I don't know if it was against Matt. I can't remember if it was against Maddie or David, but like one of the big things that came up was well, you kind of have to click the hyper voice to get the throat spray going, but also that hyper voice isn't doing a single thing for you this turn. So it's kind of like a waste of a
yeah,
turn, and like you get to +1, but the Goldango across from you gets to +2, and now you're immediately threatened with a make it rain like right after, and like you didn't get to go as far. I like Life Orb Prim. I think Life Orb Prim is very neat. If you want that damage output on the Primarina. And then, of course, it allows you to be aware. It's like if you did set this liquid voice, like the throat spray up, if you have to haze after, it kind of feels bad. Where the life orb, you never have to worry about that. So people are using throat spray, so I probably am wrong. There's definitely reasons to use it. That's just my personal idea.
yeah. I think that Citrus Berry was the slightly more common item on the Prim and on these teams, which I think I like better for the reasons that you stated with the like anti synergy between throat spray and haze. Like with the citrus berry, it just allows you to be bulkier, sit on the field for longer, get that haze in when you need to,
Yeah.
but also probably do enough damage. I know in a couple of the sets that we saw on stream, specifically Ibrahim's set, which I'm going to gush grannies about in a little bit. Um, he like used that Terra Poison Prim to just incredible use to where like his opponent, who I believe it was Joan Garcia, in like that type of mirror, just couldn't deal with it. It didn't have the damage to knock it out. So, um, yeah,
So I'm not too crazy. I did look in for all the day two players. Life Orb was actually the number one item for Prim. 12 Life Orb, 11 Citrus, 9 Throat Spray, and then there was 1 Covert Cloak, 1 Lefties. Also, in general, the 4 moves you're seeing here for Prim, this is the standard. 34 Primarina made day 2. Every single one ran Hyper Voice, Moonblast, Protect, and then all but one ran Haze. There was one Calm Mind Prim, and that was probably either the Covert Cloak or Lefties one. But yeah, like this is a Pokemon. It's a very standard Pokemon. It does its thing. It has an unbelievable typing. It is able to play a great role in this format. Please free Tapu Fini. I swear to God. Moving on.
I don't want Tapu Fini right now.
Oh my God, I miss
Please no.
Tapu Fini would fix me. Tapu Fini would fix me. Like
Look,
all of my
Tapu Fini in like restricted format, yes, that's cool. Right now, no, thank you. Keep it the way it is. Reg
top,
H has been really fun.
Tapu Fini would fix me. Uh, Alessandro Marchioni's team. This is again this very similar to Matty Morgan's. This is what we're talking about, where you have the Amoonguss P2 Instant Goldango, and then instead of the Garchomp, we see Ursaluna and the Flamigo as the fighting type. Now with Flamigo and the Terra Flying Porygon 2, which Terra Flying Porygon 2 very similar to Nils Dunlop's team that won EUIC. This is actually very reminiscent of that EUIC winning team. Makes it a lot easier for Ursaluna to click those Earthquakes, which is a great button for it to click. When you're in Trick Room, you want to be hitting these spread moves. You want to be doing as much damage in the 4 to 5 turns that you have. So having the ability to click Earthquake and either send the Flamigo out where it's naturally able to sit next to it, or go Terra Flying on the Porygon, and also provide some really great Terra Blast, Terra Flying damage with the Porygon. That's really nice. The other changes we see here mainly are the No Protect Clear Smog on Amoonguss. So getting the Pollen Puff and keeping the poison coverage, but going with Clear Smog as a Dondozo answer, and the Terra Dragon Metal Coat on the Goldango.
Yeah, I also do enjoy the Flamigo on this team quite a bit. Like having Scrappy allows you to have another way to deal with Golden Go, which is really, really important. You're immune to Intimidate. You have that Terra Ghost. You know, you're not as fast as Sneasler is, which is kind of where the trade off comes from. But in this, you get Wide Guard, you get a really good pair of offensive typings with the ability to hit ghost types with close combat.
You're
Um,
also Intimidate immune, which is
yeah,
absolutely massive. Um, so like you're close, like you can lead your Flamigo into Incineroar and then OHKO it with the close combat.
yeah. I really enjoy this team. Like I think that this, you know, the two flex spots, I think both have their own merits. They both are really solid choices. The pairing of Flamigo with the Ursaluna makes it so that you're not as intimidate weak, and while you know the Sneasler with the Garchomp, you have that clear amulet to try and mitigate that weakness as well. So they both really are similar outside of speed tiers. Where this
Yeah,
one is definitely leaning a lot more towards let's be a little slower. Let's play this game slower. Let's play it under Trick Room, and let's try to win it through good positional play.
yeah. Like this team specifically, you want to get into a position where Ursaluna or Goldango, and to a lesser extent Flamigo, like especially one of these two Pokemon, with the help of P2 Incin Amoonguss, gets into a position where they're able to click Make It Rain twice or Earthquake twice, and in those 2 turns collect 2-3 KOs and do so much damage to anything left standing that there is no coming back. Again, very similar to what we saw in Regulation F with Nils Dunlop's team. Um, just a really really great team, and again, like I'd say, like Maddie's team, this team, and the team that we just went over, Nicolo's team, like if you're going and prepping for an event, I know the next US event is um, Louisville. Like prep for those three. I think those are like the three teams to prep for, or at least like and if you strip it down to the cores, the two cores to prep for. A thing that you should keep an eye out for, but didn't really have a great day, as we said. Rain had an awful day, unless your name was Fevzi. Also going with the maushold here, and with the annihilate. So like this team is very actually looking at it right now. This team is very similar to that Mouse Ape Rain team that won that big. I forgot who hosts. I think it was Tommy hosted it. It's like a
Hmm.
early meta big limitless tour. That was these five, but Hydreigon as the sixth. And I remember like Cybertron did a video on it and everything, and then the team didn't do anything in Baltimore. Fevzi dropped the Hydreigon for Scream's Grimmsnarl, and I believe that adding the Scream's Grim here gives the team a lot more optionality in play. Having a Screens mode just lets you get super bulky with Nihilate and with Archaludon, and just lets them, like, especially with the Hospitality boosts and healing from Sinistra, and just lets these two Pokemon take 4 KOs and never feel threatened.
Yeah, and you can use Maushold or Pelipper or Grimmsnarl to really pair next to just about any of these Pokemon. You have that Follow Me Trick Room with Sinistra. You have the beat up into both Annihilate and Archaludon to boost Rage Fist and Stamina boosts, get that defense up. Definitely feels like a center point of this team. But having that secondary mode of screens, letting your Annihilate just sit behind a light screen and click bulk up a bunch of times, allows it to, naturally boost its Rage Fists. You have the Pelipper with the Archaludon for Electro Shot boosts. Um, I think that this team is just really cool. I love where there's so many different modes and so many different Pokemon that just work so well together and have a bunch of like little interesting, little options that
Synergies.
options that they can play together with the separate beat ups. I think that's just awesome. That's so
Yeah.
much fun.
The one thing to note is that like the Grim is probably full bulk. Mousehold, you're clicking beat up. Fevzi was able to, I believe it was Fevzi, was able to use Mousehold's beat up to set up for a KO the following turn by breaking a sash on a Sneasler, and then giving it the opportunity where his Annihilate was able to click Rage Fist into the Sneasler and pick up the KO because the sash was broken. So like that's a little cute thing you can do with it. So overall, to mitigate the lack of offense outside of the Ape and the Arch, you have Stellar Terra, Life Orb, Pelipper with two moves that do a lot of damage. And God, I love this bird. Love being right. Just
Yeah,
absolutely love it.
Terra
Absolutely.
Stella Pelipper it's really awesome in this format. I used it on my own Archaludon Greninja team that I was playing for a lot of the format at the beginning. Mine was Sash instead of Life Orb, which just allowed you to be a little bit safer in front of Electro Shots. The Life Orb here, it's just like, all right, I'm just gonna start hurricaning you. You're not gonna like it. You're gonna get confused, and it's gonna do a lot of damage. And you're just gonna have to live with it. Plus, you have like this additional speed control from Grimmsnarl to where you can add additional bulk and speed to your Pelipper that it normally doesn't have between the screens and Thunderwave, or the Friend Guard from Maushold. I think that its positioning as an offensive Pokemon in this team, as well as a supporting one to Archaludon and Sinistra, um, is a lot of fun and probably really wreaked havoc on teams who couldn't get around the Maushold or the screens.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just I don't know. Like this. Like earlier, we said Rain had a bad day. This is an This is a change in how Rain is ran. This isn't the standard Rain team that we're used to. And so maybe we see something like this or another iteration of this six at Louisville as people continue to play Rain. It's not the team's bad. Like Arch is great, Pelly is great. Like these are all great Pokemon. I think that people have prepped for it. They've learned how to play against it. Rain can also be a little more linear, not as linear as some of these more quote unquote gimmicky teams. But yeah, like Fevzi being able to have a very non-linear team and have massive amounts of optionality is the way to approach it. So this next part, we've seen this six mostly. The only difference between this balance and the other balance is the Magmar, which that is the free like choice that these Sneasler, Prim, Gambit, Pult, Rillaboom players are having. Do you want the speed control taunt, or do you want the Will-O-Wisp Go Boom button with Overheat or Heat Wave? Ibrahim, before we go into this, as you all know, for most North American events with New Englanders in it, because all of my friends are cracked, I will spend a lot of time solely talking about my friends. Be lucky I wasn't here for Baltimore. I would have spent 45 minutes talking about Dawei. Love him so much. Ibrahim is a friend of Jay's. So, Jay, put on your Angelo hat. Floor is yours.
I will not go on for 45 minutes, but I am so proud of Ibrahim. He's been playing in UDL and RTT for a long time and has just been absolutely dominant. Has been going out in the European scene quite a bit, making some really big finishes in Dortmund last year and a couple of the other regionals. Made it to Worlds, did really well there. I believe day two'd, and we talked about we talk about Eve a lot on this channel. Actually, yeah. His name just keeps popping up all over the place, and to watch him, 1 week play a UDL battle, and then in the next week jump out there and finish in the top 8 of a massive regional is so amazing. Watching him overcome Joan Garcia in his round of 16 set, coming in as the 16th seed, playing against the top seed, was really nuts. And to win it, given the mirror match and what needed to go right and what needed to go wrong, it was on a knife's edge, and I just couldn't be more proud. Eve has a history of definitely kicking my butt. I have like one really important win over him, and the rest is basically him beating me to a pulp. So to say I'm surprised about them finishing as high as they did, I'm not even a little bit. I'm just so happy to see it happen. They got a win on stream. They got to talk to the casters and stuff afterwards. I love seeing the homies thrive. The team's awesome. I love Magmar. I think Magmar is a great call. Allows you to have a better matchup into Rillaboom. You get to Will-O-Wisp stuff. It's like a pseudo Incineroar in a way. You have Vital Spirit as well, allowing you to avoid sleep from Amoonguss. This team, it did really well across the board. I couldn't be more proud that Eve was the highest with the Magmar, and only fell out of the mirror to Nicolo, who ended up top 3 with Buzz. So yeah, that's my gushing grannies.
Yeah, another thing that's really cool with the Will-O-Wisp is not just like having Overheat and Will-O-Wisp to deal with, or Heat Wave and Willow to deal with the Rillaboom. Will-O-Wisp it's great to slow down the Sneasler, the Dragapult, the Gambit. Like you get the Firewater Grass along with the Fantasy Core, so you're pulling the double core. It's a lot of great synergies. I know specifically Carter brought up, "Oh, I've been seeing this team," and I'm like, "Yeah, buddy, it's popular." And then the first thing he says was, "Well, now I don't want to play it."
Yeah, it's classic. The stuff Carter is on now, Really fun. I have some feelings about it that I'm gonna have to express at some point. I just can't find the words.
I haven't played it, but I also, you know, getting married, it's a lot. Especially like you think the last 2 weeks, everyone's vendors are paid, most things are handled, you're just waiting, and then you get to like the week of, and it's just absolute hell. So yeah, I haven't played Mons in like 3-4 weeks or so. Yeah, about it's been close to a month. So I haven't even bothered playing or looking at Carter's team, not because like I think it's bad, because I don't. It's because I would probably do very poorly with it, because I don't know how I'm playing. One of the things I realized is that we skipped from fifth to seventh because I was so excited to talk about Ebe. This is a team that if Carter showed it to us, we would have probably bullied him for. Sixth place, Jack Clark. Um,
This is awesome. This is
this
just
is not like I think Tim. Yeah, not a single one of these Pokemon in the top 12. Um, it's a Toxtricity. Like I love, so Toxtricity was on my Sword and Shield in like playthrough team. I think Toxtricity is so cool. Um, I had Unburdened Driftbloom on my first ever, like the first ever VGC team I built. It was like a Series 4 team. I had the Grassy Sea Driftbloom with a Rillaboom. It was like right after the Grassy Surge Rillaboom was released. So I like a lot of these Pokemon. Male Indeedee is super cool. Like all of these bonds are really cool. And when you first look at them, you're like, what the hell do any of these Pokemon do together? And then you get a little closer. You have the fast Tailwind with Driftbloom, along with a ton of hate towards physical attackers, whether it be the Strength Sap or the Will-O-Wisp. The Toxtricity really is the star. Terra Normal Boom Burst next to the Driftbloom or the Coma-O with Soundproof, you're able to do a massive amount of spread damage while allowing the Driftbloom to continue supporting the team, or the Coma-O to either set up with an Iron Defense, or just go after it with like these grass ups with a flamethrower. Punk Rock is a super super cool ability. Not only does it boost these sound moves, which are Overdrive and Boom Burst, but also opposing sound moves get cut in half. So if you're up against a, say like a Snarl, the Snarl's doing half as much damage. The opposing Hyper Voice from Primarina is doing half as much damage. So this is like a really really neat ability for this metagame that not a lot of people probably didn't even know what that second part was.
I didn't.
Um, yeah,
I didn't know that that's how that worked.
yeah, it is because your sound is so loud, and like your vibes, and like you're just like
You're
shredding.
overshadowing. You're overshadowing.
You
them,
can't
yeah.
you can't hear the haters.
No, I see the vibes. I see the thought process behind it. I didn't know that that's how that worked.
Yeah,
Toxicity just definitely took a few steps up my ladder. I always thought this was a cool Pokemon. It's really strong in random double battles. Like there's a choice scarf set that is really really good. So now I know not to click Hyper Voice in front of this thing.
yeah. No, I mean like well, you can click it for the partner, but yeah, the hyper voice or like yeah, hyper voice, the any of these. I mean, the only thing that I'm not 100% sure of is I do think Perish Song still works, which does suck that you can't be completely immune. So it's not like a soundproof, but the fact that you do reduce that damage, it is really neat. Um, Primarina was one of the top Pokemon in the format. Toxtricity, amazing into Primarina. The Sludge Bomb as well really helps it into the grass types, such as Rillaboom, and again also into Prim. Um, the Indeedee, the Imprison Trick Room is always cool. What's great with Indeedee Male is that you have those really great offenses, some built-in speed, where you can be your own like built-in side spam package. Like you can spam Expanding Force and Overdrive. Overdrive is electric type attack, sound-based attack that spread to the to it's like an electric hyper voice. So you're doing spread damage, but you're not hurting like your Indeedee here. So you can do like Overdrive plus Expanding Force, or next to the Volcarona, Overdrive plus Heat Wave, get a ton of spread damage in, and just really threaten your opponents with a lot of special damage. The one thing that we did see with this team was we saw on stream versus Fevzi. I believe it was round 10, 9, or it was like early on in the day. I believe it was actually might have been round 9. I think it might have been the first stream match that against a team such as like Fevzi's that had um, Snarl Archaludon, you kind of just the Snarl's not doing much to the Toxtricity, but since you're pretty much all special attackers outside of the Body Press and Komao and the Acrobatics and Drifloom, you will get Snarl spammed out of your damage. There's no setup boosting. Like this is a 3 attack Volcarona with Life Orb. It's not the Quiver Dance set that we're used to seeing. So there's no way really to boost away from those snarls, and you just get slowed down immediately.
Yeah, and even the Toxtricity hates to see the Snarl too. Like it doesn't do
Yeah.
as much damage to it, but once you get that special attack drop, your choice specs kind of get invalidated, and Toxtricity, it's not the strongest Pokemon in existence. I mean, I know its special attack stat is pretty decent, but that choice specs really puts it over the edge. And yeah, the other thing with this team is that there's only 2 protects, so
Yeah.
you're really relying on good positioning and really great offense as well. You also have the Boom Burst synergy next to Terra Ghost Hydreigon, which is really fun. So there's technically 3 Pokemon you can lead this Tox next to, and click a Terra Normal Boom Burst with.
Well, you
Um,
can't Terra Normal if you're also Terraing the Hydreigon.
okay,
You
yeah,
can
you could
click
just
reg-
click Boom
you
Burst,
can
just
click
regular
regular
Boom
Boom
Burst.
Burst. Yeah.
Yeah, double Terra. That's the way things work now.
That's going to be the next. That's going to be the Gen 10 gimmick. Um, it's we keep Terra and you get to do it twice, and everyone's going to hate it. Um, moving on to 8th place. Again, we aren't going to spend a ton of time with this team. We know what it does. Nico Cogneta's team. I'd say the main difference is the Salamence over the Dragapult. We're seeing it with Choice Specs, Terra Fire, a lot of Choice Specs Dragons that did very well this week. And
Yeah.
just, again, Dragons in general did very, very well this week. It adds a different aspect to the team. You aren't as physical. You actually have a second special attacker because in the other variants of the team, the only special attacker is Primarina, and then whatever coverage move you have on your Follow Me Redirector. So you actually can split the types of damage that you do. Doesn't make you as intimidate, worried. Also gives you an intimidate of your own. That is the one thing with these balance teams popping up is that they don't have intimidate on their side, and when everyone's not using intimidate, it's not like a bad thing. But when everyone's not using it, but then you say, "Oh, I'm going to use it," that's a little more fun for you.
Yeah, for sure. Like when Intimidate stocks go down, in terms of people are like, oh yeah, Incineroar is not as great right now, or Intimidate is not as prevalent. You can really bring that Salamence. It has a decent matchup into like the King Gambit if you do end up boosting it. Especially since you have Magmar next to you, you can use that Terrifier Heat Wave. So you're covering that Intimidate hate as well. Um, Fun little addition to the team. Really does feel like a similar role to the Hydreigon that we've seen on a couple teams so far. Yeah,
Yeah. So I'm going to. So what we're going to do is we're just going to look in. Whoops, wrong one. In general, so that was the top 8. A lot of the other teams they would have a lot of similar pieces to the ones that we to what we've seen. I'd say the main differences here we see Raphael Sadowski also using the solo arch and the Vivillon. We can just quickly dive into what that is doing. This one, it's actually 3 attack unburdened, so this is the unburdened set. That is a I didn't even notice this. That is a loaded dice Rillaboom.
Yeah, you bullet seed
Um,
into Arch.
Bullet seed into the Arch. That's super cool. Love to see that. I think one of the big things with this team, the standout mon, is Vivillon, and I would like just to cover what it's doing. This is a Pokemon that you are seeing a bit of. Another like variant of the P2 in single dingo teams is using Chomp, Vivian, and Prim, and rounding out that way. Um, Compound Eyes gives you Hurricane. It gives you Fast Sleep Powder that's relatively accurate, Fast Hurricane that's relatively accurate, and a Rage Powder and Rage Powder as well. Fly tip damage is super popular and super important in this format, in my opinion, and not many Pokemon that we usually see have stab flying damage, especially like non-terror like Terra Blast reliant flying damage. So that's why you're seeing a Gen 6 bug that honestly we really never saw much of it. I think it did pop up a little at the beginning of Scarlet and Violet, but that's why we're seeing it pop up now on these legitimate teams, because it's kind of playing like a similar role to what Butterfree did in series like 1 and series 2 of Sword and Shield, where Compound Ice Sleep Powder with a Rage Powder with a Hurricane it's good, and then you also get Rage Powder to add a mode of redirection to this team.
Yeah, it makes it more consistent and helps you with dealing with the opposing side. I like the Viv. I think it's an interesting call. I know we saw it do well in Baltimore, and we saw it do well in the Spirit Pillar tour that Carter and I talked about last week as well. Um, Definitely something you're going to see around. I also think it's interesting to see Rock Slide Sneasler on this team. I don't know if that's for the mirror or what, but very unique call for the third move. And Bullet Seed Rillaboom is really fun. I don't know how big of a fan I am of it, just because Rillaboom is a bit slower.
I'm not a
Um,
fan. I'm a fan of it. I'm not a fan of also dropping Grassy Glide. Like I've seen,
yeah,
yeah, I've like, and I understand you also we want ground coverage and high horse. Unless you're throwing Terra ground onto something, high horsepower really is the only ground coverage that you can get with this team. Because it feels bad dropping the U-turn. You can't drop the fake out really, unless you're just running a banded. But not having the Grassy Glide kind of makes the Rillaboom a little tougher to use, especially as well because it doesn't have the Assault Vest that we're so used to seeing the Rillaboom hold. So not only do you not have the priority, but you also don't have the bulk that you're used to.
I agree. I think Grassy Glide is too important.
Yeah. Are there any other teams that like we really want to talk about? Because we as we said we have two events, and we do want to just briefly go over some of the teams from Joinville.
No, I
So
think we can move on to Joinville.
okay,
You know, there's like a delphox team running around, which is really cool.
yep,
Which did well
that is
in Dortmund.
the yeah. So that Delphox team was initially developed by Ben Grismer, also known as Chef. Shout out New England.
You
Had to
still get
fit
your time, huh?
Had to fit it in somehow. Top. So Joinville, much smaller regional, only 111 players. Your top 12. Goldango took the number one spot, followed by Rillaboom, Amoonguss, Incin, Gambit, Prim, Arch, Sneasler, Pelipper, Maushold, Dragonite, and Garchomp, rounding out the top 12. I think one of the things that we will probably get to at some point within the next month or so is doing a new tier list, because boy oh boy, ours have aged like dog shit, like everyone else's did from like August 1st.
Yeah,
With
maybe we
that
do
being
that next week because we don't have anything to
we don't have
cover
any.
next week.
Oh, perfect. See, tier list next week, everyone. Make you get to watch us make fun of ourselves.
Mark your
Um,
calendars, baby. It's gonna be a good one.
yeah, I will say, with that being said, this top five here of Goldango, Rilla, Amoonguss, Incin, Gambit, that's probably what I would call my S tier now. which is 4 out of the 5 of the mons we initially had in our S tier. And we're not going to talk about the mon that we will be dropping from S tier, because if I do, I will cry on stream. So Gabriel Agati, again, one of the top players in the world, took the event and got his Worlds invite handled in September. So congratulations to Gabriel. This is a team very similar, actually. I'm not sure if it's the exact team. I know it's the exact mons. It might not be the exact same sets as Paul Chua's team from Baltimore that he came in second with.
It is not the same team. I will tell you that for sure.
It is not, because I just saw that it's a Choice Specs Alola Tails and a Choice Banded Garchomp.
Yes.
So those are actually, holy crap, there's one Protect on this team. That is not a Paul Chua thing. But the team itself is, like, this 6 is something that we have seen in the past. Going back to Dortmund real quickly, we also saw this 6 come in 17th place with Janet Koch, and then Victor Medina also ran it to come in 20th. So this is one of the top 6 in the format. Ground type damage is amazing with the Garchomp. And the other thing that's really amazing right now with all the Dragon types and Grass types in the format, Ice type damage is unbelievable, and there's like no Ice types in the format. So using Alolan Ninetales not as this supporty, let me set up screens, let me disrupt the weather sort of Pokemon that we've seen it use in the past, specifically in like Regulations D and E. But seeing it as this is an Ice type with a pretty good special attack stat that's fast as hell. I'm gonna click Blizzard a lot.
It's doing its best Articuno impression from one of the European tournaments last year. I don't remember.
It was one of the special events that I can't think of.
Not coming to my head, but I do remember that tournament was awesome.
It was earlier this year.
Yeah.
Well, I'll come up with it.
It was won by Tio.
Yeah, Tio, who again, great guy. Shout out Tio. Shout out Team India for World Cup. That is, I'm on the record over like saying like that's my pick for World Cup this year. Their team is absolutely stacked, but we aren't here to talk about World Cup. We do want to focus on this regional. And second place, again, talk about a really good week for Dragon type. Second place, Sebastian Escalante. It's a mirror match. I believe looking at this 6 with the Protect Encore Sash, Alolan Ninetales, the Life Orb Protect on Garchomp. This is probably a lot closer. Well, this is definitely a lot closer to the 6 in terms of sets.
I think it is the 6. I think this is Paul.
It might be, yeah, the exact 6. I thought Paul's Amoonguss had Protect.
It may have.
It's very, very similar. We're not clicking all these choice specs boosted moves. But yeah, Sebastian came in second with this team with a 6-mon mirror match. And then if going through the rest of the tournament, we also saw Alola Tails finish in 7th place on a Mouse Ape team, 10th place on the same exact 6 again, and then we saw that same 6 also do well in 13th. So one of the things to know, at least coming out of Joinville, is a lot of the other teams are relatively similar, or at least the cores are similar to what we've seen do well in the American events. Luis Lima and Victor Vieira, they both use that P2 Goldango team, leaning more towards like the Viv Prim Garchomp, which is not a variant that we saw as much of in the European events. But in general, a lot of the teams are relatively similar, with this Palchua team being a lot more popular here than it was in Europe. I think it's a very good team.
Yeah, what this tells you is that Brazilians are big fans of Palchua.
Yeah, they are. and I will also say I think it does show where when you go back to, I mean, we did see overall a lot of Magmar, but a lot of these teams that we see here, if you had like the Alola Tails and the Terraflying Dragonite, Terra Blast Dragonite. I feel like a lot of these teams get broken by that, or at least whether it's the Dragonite being able to wall them, being a great dragon, or putting out this great stab, terraflying damage, and then just like the Blizzard spam. Looking at Maddie Morgan's team, that Blizzard, like a lot of these Pokemon don't want to see a Blizzard or a freeze dry. Same with Nicolo's, like David's team, half of it just drops to a single Blizzard with the Hydreigon, the Chomp, and the Whims. So I do think that is a Pokemon that people might start adapting and using more of. We can at least say it wasn't a one-time fluke, and that two of the top players in the world, plus a ton of other players from Brazil, and some of the top players in Dortmund as well, were saying, yeah, no, it's like Ninetales can be legit, and maybe we see this six develop more or changed up as the format goes. Like this would be another six I would keep in the back of my head if I'm prepping for Louisville, whether it's to use this team or to prep against it.
Yeah, I've definitely seen some, Ninetales popping up a little bit more lately. Some of them have that Baxcalibur for that, soft snow package to where they don't have to go with the snow but can still run it. And then other times you're seeing like just lone Baxcalibur on some of these teams, like Juan Salerno's,
Yeah, and
which
this is
also
just
brings into like that ice damage is really good idea.
yeah. Yeah. Juan also going with the wide lens mount, like the offensive mouse hold. The a lot of setup on the team. You have the scale shot, icicle spear, loaded dice backs, sword stance gambit, with the Terra flying instead of the normal Terra dark that we usually see on it. The quiver dance Volcarona. So having the fake out from Sneasler, the protect from and the protect the follow me, I'm sorry, from Mouse is really nice, along with these two supporty pieces, quote unquote, also being able to put out immediate damage itself while you let your Volk or your Gambit set up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So overall, a lot of great teams, a lot of great Pokemon. I thought, at least for Dortmund, going back there, I'll just keep it here. At least for Dortmund, I feel like the stream production was significantly better. I was able to watch every match for this regional and as well as Baltimore. My biggest complaint for Baltimore regionals watching it was specifically like day one. They only showed the XO matchups once we got to like we only got to see one winning in. And well, yeah, it's super cool to see what the top players are doing doing. After a while, it's like, okay, we've seen all these guys before. They're just playing for seeding. Their day's done. It was really nice for Dortmund for them to play the 5-1, the 6-1. Let's get like the X2 trying to get into top cut in round 10, round 11. Like those are the matches that it adds a level of gravity to them that they're more important than just, oh, I'm potentially playing for a bye. It's I'm playing for my tournament life. And that's just, it's for me, in my opinion, it's a better watch for the viewer. Adds that little extra like level of spice to it.
I agree. I like the when it's all on the line, when you have nothing's just locked in for you, everything's for grabs. You see the most creative, the best plays, but you also see the pressure, and it's just a very fun watch. I know when I got on stream, I was 9-3, and Choppa kind of looked at me and he was like, I'm a little surprised they're calling us up there, but there was still a lot on the line for both of us. Two wins from there secured us probably top cut, and so it was super intense in the moment for me, and I love those high pressure matches. It's always a lot of fun to watch. It makes for great spectator sport.
Yeah, because it's like you also get, we all know Wolf Slick's going to go X1 day one. And yeah, he's good TV. Get him on round 6 or round 5 when you're able to just throw him on, because you get again, not saying that Jay's a nobody. Jay's everything in my heart. But to the person who isn't a grinding draft leagues or isn't part of our community, it might have been the first time they've ever got to watch Jay play, and they got to watch him use a really unique team and pilot it super well into into a top level player. And those are moments that that will happen at the X1 X2 tables, trying to get into day 2 or trying to get into cut, that we miss out on by just putting the XOs there. Because, like, I think Swede said, it's like, can't wait to continue watching the same 12 North American players, because that's what it kind of felt like.
Yeah. Also, I will excuse your gushing about your friends for this occasion. Okay.
It's fine. With that being
said, that was great.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my rant on TPCI actually doing something right and improving event over event, and hopefully
also showcase LATAM tournaments, please.
Yeah, please. At some point, like, I understand, like, these are some talented ass players. I actually, one of the news notes that I did see is that for some reason, I think it's like 10 LATAM countries just completely lost all of their locals. And it's like, it's a feels bad.
Like, why? Just why?
It's literally, I think they just care about North, like, because even Europe, it's like a lot of the European locals just don't exist anymore. It's just Japan and the States that they actually care about. And especially when you look at where they put Worlds, they clearly do not care about Europe.
Yeah. It's been what, Columbus, it was in London 2 years ago, right?
It was in London 2 years ago, but that was like
the only one, right?
Yeah, but then you do Yokohama or like wherever they had it in Japan. Then it's Hawaii, and then next year is
Los Angeles, Anaheim next week. Next year, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally
the same. It's the same. Place.
It's literally the same thing. And then they already confirmed that 2026 is San Francisco. So that's 4 straight years of West Coast US and Japan having the best travel, and everyone else suffering.
Where's our regionals? Where's the East Coast regionals?
Where's ours? I mean, we had
Toronto.
Yeah.
Toronto is far. Baltimore is far. Like, it's not a short drive for anyone in New York.
No.
TPCI, do better. Give New England and New Yorkers easier travel. Give LATAM countries better coverage, and stop being jerks. There's our rants.
There's our rants. And with that, Jay, take us out.
Thank you guys all so much for watching. Let us know what you're excited to see in the upcoming regionals, especially Louisville. I'm most excited to see Carter. He's going to kick some butt. We're all working on this team together, so it's been a fun time. Comment down below what you guys think Carter is going to go, I guess. Check out the Twitter at LR Lessons. Come hang out in the Discord. We're all talking in there about the fun stuff that's been going on. This format's been a really great breath of fresh air from the restricted tournaments that we've had recently. And, I really enjoyed playing again. And so there's a lot of, fun discourse going on. And then make sure you guys check out the Patreon and Discord supporters links as well. We have to censor our intros and we still don't get paid, so help us pay our bills.
Yep, because I had a great one and then I realized I said some no words.
Yeah, we're not allowed to say no words, and that's a big thumbs down, so help us out so we can say no words. All right, thank you guys all so much for watching, and we will see you all next week with our tier list. Peace out.